Hello all. Today we the members of group 10 are going to present the video streaming with RTSP and RTP. Here RTSP is real-time streaming protocol and RTP is real-time transfer protocol. The 4 points to be kept in mind are real-time streaming protocol RTSP is used to establish and control media sessions between client and server. RTSP acts as a network remote control for multimedia servers. RTSP uses TCP to maintain an end-to-end connection and messages are sent by the client to the server and some are sent from server to the client. RTSP facilitates real-time control of playback of media files from the server.
Here in the server code, if condition is given, which will be executed after that, main function will call this condition. In main function, we will assign the server port number which has a parameter. Otherwise, we will print this statement here given. This will execute uh, after this. The socket will be created and it will bind the server port number. Here we are the limiting server request number by 5, and after this server will go to the wait condition and wait until client approaches to it. After that, immediately server worker will be executed. Here the server worker or code will be run after we execute this server code. Here we are initializing the variables at init is equal to 0, ready, n1 and the following given here. Here first we have defined this init function which will be executed as here given below. This function will do the client object will be created in that class, and this new client object will be initialized, which will be sent and given by us. After this, the run code will be executed where it will create a thread. After this, a new function we have called is for the request, where it is limited to give the thread of length 256. Now, in this process RTS request function, this function will execute the request line and will split into several parts like sequence number and file name. Now here, if our request type is set up, then our current state, which is the initial state, that will open the open video stream, and now our current state will go to ready mode, or otherwise it will send error not found. After after this, if there is successful connection occurred, then it will send this message. Same. Now, like setup, we have other three functions which are play request, pause request, and tear down request. These functions will, for example, play starts the data transmission on the stream. In pause, it will temporarily hold the stream with this type of given messages in that code, and tear down free resources of the stream, not no and no further video resuming will be proceed by the server.
So let's come to the RTP packet. Now here in first we will go to the encode function where we will encode the headers, and here we have received the header in this variable and the payload in the self.payload variable. So now and then we will, for the decoding function, we will call the decode function. We can also identify the version from this function. We can identify the sequence number from this function. We can return the timestamp from this function, and we can also get the header function from the payload type. Okay. and then we will also get the payload from get payload. And here the RTP packet contains a combination of header and the payload. The client function takes server IP, RTP, port number, and the file path to function as command line arguments. Otherwise, it will return an error if it is not possible. Uh, Here, a client function is created, a client object is created, and the GUI main loop is run using the takeinter object. The client is implemented inside the client.py. Inside the client class, init function sets up the object variables and the GUI before connecting to the server. In the create widgets, we set the GUI buttons and their functions to display the video frame. Okay, so now we will explain the connect to server function. Here, connect to server attempts to connect the server through server message and server port. A warning message is shown using the takeinter message box in case the connection is failed to form. Inside the create widgets, the setup button is called to setup button called the setup movie function sets up RTSP request with the setup request type given that the given state is in it. The teardown button calls the exit client function which sends an RTSP request if the teardown request type at this point is the GUI. In the pause button, the pause button calls the pause movie function, sending the RTSP request only if the current state is playing. The play movie button calls the play movie function, starts listening RTSP function and sends the play RTSP request. The listen RTP receives the RTP packet inside an infinite while loop and decodes the data into header and payload. The frame of the latest packet is considered, the delayed or out of order packets are ignored. The received frame is returned to a temporary image file using write frame, and the image is then displayed on the GUI using update movie function. Receiving a pause or teardown causes the loop to break in the listen RTP. If acknowledgement for teardown is received, then STP socket is also closed. The send RTSP request sets up the request string sent to the server based on the request type and the current state. The RTSP sequence number is incremented as shown here. The request string is created which is then sent by RTSP socket.send to the server. The received RTSP reply receives the response from the server and passes the reply. RTSP socket is shut down if the teardown response is received. The parse RTSP reply function updates the state based on the request sent only if the returned response code is 1. Necessary actions corresponding to the request status is also performed. The open RTP port is used to create an RTP port, sets timeout interval and binds the port to the socket. The handler function is called when the GUI window is explicitly closed. Thank you.
Here, now for execution, we will open the two command prompts given here. First, the command prompt will open for the server side, and here 1075 will be the service port number, server's port number. And the other command prompt will describe about the client launcher and will have the same port number as given here. Now I will run the server first. After this, I will run about the client server side's code. As you can see, the RTP client has popped up in the screen. Now, by clicking on setup, we'll get this message here. When I play, we'll see the sequence number generated by the clients from the client side, and I can pause from here. We'll get this message after I select the pause button here. To exit the video, I will click on tear down. So this is how the code was executed.